Hello, viewers, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And here on Hope TV, we always do our very best to bring to you persons who are changing our community and changing it in the direction of light and by the power of God. And on Spotlight, on this particular edition, we are looking at the state of marriages, the state of marital relationships in our country today. Well, you hear about marriage and you hear about marital relationships, and the immediate reaction that comes to your mind is, wow, what's going on here? Yet it's the most anticipated institution, that is marriage, but the dynamics in there sometimes disappoint. And we are very, very glad to be joined by one who has inspired lots of people and guided lots of people in terms of their relationships and how they're supposed to run them productively and also in a godly way. And we are happy to have on Spotlight none other than Robert Burale, who is an inspirational speaker, no doubt, who is an image consultant, clearly, and also founder of Burale School of Leadership, founder also of Readily Bold Company, and also founder of Naked Truth Ministries. And well, we hope that we can be able to engage some naked truth here on Spotlight as we talk about marital relationships.
Thank you for having me.
Brother Burale?
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
And welcome to Hope TV.
It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, it's your very first time.
Yes, and I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, how come you've not been here?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe this was the right time.
I think that you're right.
Yes.
This is the right time. And the right time, especially because you also have just held a men's conference.
Yes.
Which was the first for you.
Yes, it was.
And you had 800 men come together.
Yes.
And just as we were talking earlier, you mentioned that it's a very emotional meeting.
It was very.
And you say that men are wounded and men are were just in tears,
Yes.
In this meeting.
Yes.
And just putting that in the context of marriage, marriage is such that men today seem to be lost in terms of who they are.
Right.
And a man would enter a marriage hoping to thrive, but they end up beginning to just die slowly.
Yeah. What is happening? Men are just walking with their death certificates in their pocket. So every so often we keep on finding out when the expiry date comes, and we want it to come sooner, sadly. And in the men's conference which we had just the other day, we had married men, some divorced, separated, and young men coming up and who will take over the baton from us when our time is up. And what I realize is that we want to keep a very strong face on the outside. We want to put a mask, and not to be funny by putting on the mask, but to hide our pain. And I realized the ones who are married, some are saying, my goodness, how am I a man if I don't earn more than my wife? How am I a man if I'm in between jobs and my wife is the one who wakes up in the morning and comes back in the evening? How is it that I'm a man and it's my wife who's telling me about her boardroom meetings? And all I can tell her is, or the tap is not working. The caretaker came late today. And it's because of change. We're in a social media age that has actually diluted some of the great foundations of who a man is, And I'm not saying a man should not provide. A man should provide, but if maybe you're in between jobs, it should not make you feel lesser of a man. And if your wife earns even more than you, it doesn't mean she disrespects you. Some do, but some even who don't, we think in our mind they're already disrespecting us. You understand? So men are suffering, and then the young men who are trying to get into these places are looking at the divorced men and they said, if you failed, is there hope for me? And the ones who are in there are crying, is there hope for me? So it's handing over the baton of insecurity to the young people. So it's insecurity to insecurity. So we need to change that order. And to change the order first is to heal the men from the pains. The theme was going back to the trenches where we got wounded. So we limped out, but some remained there. So we are limping back there to get the ones who are wounded and remain there and to walk away.
Okay.
And before we walk away, we cover that trench for the young men to have a smooth road. Yeah.
It's a wonderful, wonderful initiative that you have there.
Yes, yes.
Now, staying with the men and the families and
Yes.
their eroded identity.
Yes.
Now, there's a shift in our culture because traditionally the man was naturally granted, the position of authority.
Yes.
And the position of respect.
Yes.
And now things have shifted, and the helpmate is no longer quite in need of a lot of help.
Yes.
Because the helpmate is now helping some of the men.
Yes, totally.
And that kind of disorientation in terms of who is the man in the family now with the empowered woman.
Right.
And there's always that conversation, should there be token leadership, because I'm the woman, I'm earning much more, but the man is supposed to be the head of the home, so it's like of a token, almost a sympathetic kind of granting of leadership, but not quite solid as the man would definitely would want to define.
Absolutely.
So can you help us, Robert, to see how does the man reorient himself to the current reality, where the helper is no longer quite the helper.
First, we need to go back to the foundation. A man who is operating in his area of dominion will flourish. That's a given. But the problem is we are conquering the wrong mountain successfully. Now, if you operate in your area, you see, you're operating here as a TV host, you are flourishing. But now if I tell you, let's go play volleyball, it may not be quiet. You understand what I'm saying? Now, what has happened to men is that we have first not discovered our garden. When you look at me, I was employed at some point, 8 to 5, but it just wasn't happening for me. I would resign, I would get sacked until I got my garden. And what happens when you get your garden, you have passion in doing that which you have been told to till. And once your passion is there, profit is guaranteed. Meaning all our blessings are there. And yes, we have the empowered woman. I will not bash the empowered woman. I think we just need to raise men to know how to handle the empowered woman. And one thing about a woman who sees a man operating in his area of power, even if she earns more than the man, that woman will submit. That woman will take her position. But also now we have this what we call feminists. Now, I need to talk to a few of the feminists. Being a feminist does not mean bashing a man. It means building the capacity of the woman. But now we also have some feminists who their work is to bash a man. And the moment you hit a man in his area of weakness, you have killed that man. You understand? So I think what needs to happen is let's know how to handle the empowered woman. Let's teach the men and the women. Because even the richest woman in the world said when she goes back home, she's a wife. The richest woman in the world. We have some women earning 20,000. And when they go back home, you think they're earning 1 million shillings. You understand what I'm saying? So we need to get to a place where women are taught the right things, men are taught the right things. A woman will submit to leadership, right leadership, regardless of the finances. And of course, we as the church, the education system and the government must work together. Okay. Because social media has taken over. In fact, social media is informing what the government should do, the church should do. It should not be the case. You understand what I'm saying? TV now is informed by social media. When something is trending on social media, it becomes news. Not news first, then social media. So now, because of this, the social media age that has a lot of not good things being thrown about, the church must take its place. Teach the men the right thing. Teach the women the right thing. Not 10 steps to get a husband. Not 10 steps to get a wife. No. Understand your calling first. And then when other things come, you'll be operating in the right foundation. Okay, Robert. Yes. Quite some philosophical statements there. Now, again, let's stay with this relationship between the man and the empowered woman. Yes. Because I think we have to use that description. Yes. Now, in the home context, how does the headship look like in that kind of context whereby you have the man and an empowered woman? How does headship look like? Now, first and foremost, I'll tell you that a friend of mine, one of my mentors, sent me a message yesterday. She said to me, I think 68% of the homes in the world are being headed by women, sadly. But the truth of the matter, in most homes, women have taken over. Let's just face it and call it as it is. Born-again men are sitting back and the women are taking over. The grace of provision, protection, and priesthood is not in the woman. So she will do it out of a kind heart, but at some point she will break. Now, breaking does not necessarily mean walking out, but she might start looking down upon you, and not because they're bad people. So what is happening is men now feel because they don't earn money, they're now sitting back. If I have money, if you go to a restaurant, my wife has to give me money under the table to pay for the bill. It will make me look good in front of my friends, but it's killing me inside. Now, what am I trying to say? Men need just to rise up again and ask God, what is my garden? Come back and offer leadership, not necessarily finances. When you offer leadership, I know God created a woman from a man and she would somehow melt into the leadership of the man. But women only submit to the right leadership. When they say a foolish woman brings down a home and da-da-da and all that, but the right foundation, the woman will flourish. Okay. And the man will feel like he's the lion of the house. Okay. Not the lion of the tribe of Judah, but the lion of the house.
All right. Definitely a very tense situation there, yes, culturally speaking. Yes, yes. And looking at, again, this institution of marriage, you find that some younger people are shy to get into it, yes, for various reasons. And one of the things that we observe is that the institution has been undermined by particular other risings in the society. Yes. For instance, it's been undermined by premarital sex. Yes. It was known that sex is a preserve of the marriage, yes, but now premarital sex is actually almost the pre-run, yes, the forerunner,
test driving.
The test driving, yes, undermined by premarital sex, undermined by even the greater agitation of same-sex marriages, yes, right? Yes. Same-sex unions, also undermined by the rates of divorce, and the question is, will marriage be resilient enough to withstand these underminings?
Sadly, I'll give you a very painful truth. Marriages now are very dilute. Any small thing, people are breaking up. They say the greater percentage of divorces in the world now have the name Facebook in it. Or why is that woman commenting more on your Facebook? Why are you commenting on that man's Facebook posts? And then trust is broken, and then communication is broken, and then people look for divorce. Now, premarital sex is happening because we are very media-controlled generation, whereby now the biggest people you follow are slave queens, they call them, And if a slave queen is making money by sleeping around, then that is my model. We are not now looking at the women of God, the church, to give us direction. You're looking at who has many followers on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook, you understand? And then when we get to a place where, and we also have to take our share of blame, when we have gone into divorce, we have also played a part in making the young people get scared of marriage, because they're looking at you and say, if Robert divorced, is there any hope for me? So we also must accept our share of blame, that we have played a part in making the young people get scared. And then the ones who are married, you hear, they're abusing each other on social media, and the young people are saying, is that what I'm going into? What happened to the days of love covers a multitude of sins? Love is patient, love is kind, love is long-suffering. So we don't have that, unfortunately. And allow me to say this, even the church in general, when we call for singles meetings, we are talking about how to get a husband, how to get a wife. Not how to be a good husband, not how to be a good wife, just how to get. And then when you get it, on-job training. Young people are having sex all over the place. And I'm talking about believers. I'm talking about believers. So when you have that which is supposed to be the preserve of marriage, you have conquered So what's the point? Let me finish with this lady or this man. Let me go to that lady. Let me go to that man, you know. So that is what is happening. And then now, same-sex marriages. Why are we scared to call it as it is? Because some powerful people are struggling with those things? No, I would rather be on God's side. And I'm not saying God hates the person doing. God hates the act. You understand? Now what has happened is there's so much sex happening at a very young age that the excitement is over and they're trying other things. Or let me try sleep with a man. Let me try sleep with a woman. And then now what is happening, it's a plan of the enemy to kill the multiplication of generations. 2 men will not have a child. 2 women will not have a child. But we are quiet as a church. The government is quiet because we don't want to lose votes. You understand? The church is quiet. The school is sweeping these things under the carpet in campuses. You understand? So we need to get back and say, okay, the church is the pillar because our pillar is the word of God. Direct the government. I liked when Bishop Ogide one time preached about the dichotomy and the thing trended. And people are like, where are men of God who will speak it as it is? But we as the church, we are running to take selfies with politicians as if it's a privilege. They need to know it is a privilege to get guidance from the church. The moment now we change the order of priority, then we're not dealing with these things. Who will stand and tell the young people, listen, sex is wrong. Stop doing this. These are the repercussions. But for us to stand and tell them with power, we must not be doing it ourselves. So that when you speak, there's power and there's backing from the heavens. You understand? The politicians should not be writing politically correct things. Or let me not say this because I'll make some people annoyed. No, because our society is getting lost. You understand? And the church, we need to tell people as it is. I think we need to get the naked truth in the pulpit, where we'll talk about sex. Yeah. It's uncomfortable, we'll talk about it.
Okay, quite something there. And you mentioned sex and premarital sex, and how it undermines, you know, the marriage institution.
Yes.
Now, when you get into the marriage institution, you find that one of the very prominent dynamics now is adultery and cheating.
Yes.
And as you say, Christians who've gone before God and made vows and said, I'll be faithful to you before God.
Not defile the marital bed.
Yeah. So how come that after making those vows before God, that now that vow has become so porous, the membrane has become so thin, that we have no guilt, you know, as we cheat, as we commit adultery. And that, of course, has its own effect, you know, on the institution.
I'll tell you something. Sadly, even when some are making those vows, they're not serious about it. Because 2 weeks before their marriage, they were still sleeping around. Now, that comes from premarital sex. If, when you are courting or dating for 2 years, you are having sex with the very person, when you get into marriage, this is the mind of a man especially. They're like, oh, she had sex with me before we got married. So when I travel, she may have sex with somebody else. So just to protect my heart, let me have it with somebody else. And after all, I had so much sex with you before we got married, I need something new. So they're looking for excitements in other places. Sadly, that is what is happening. And when you go before God, it has been made such a religious statement that we're just saying it because we have to say it before men. But how many are saying it and really speaking to God when they say, until death, or I will not defile the marital bed? It's because it has largely become a very, very, I mean, some people are making those vows when they were from a stag night the previous night, and some are still drunk. I mean, I have emceed very many functions, and I've seen the groom and or the bride very drunk, and they're still making those vows. You understand? So it's become a politically correct statement to make. But are we serious when you're saying it? So breaking it does not even convict you, sadly.
Which is interesting when you say, for instance, people coming to the place of the altar where the marriage or the home is supposed to be formed, and they are not alert about it.
Yes.
Then in making those vows, then they pile a curse
on them,
on themselves.
Yes.
Which is very sad, because at the entry point, you know, what you really are getting into is a curse as compared to a blessing.
Yes.
And it's been said many times, Robert, that the greatest reason why people get into marriage is love, right? And sometimes the understanding of love is as various as there are people.
Absolutely.
But they are in love with each other.
Yes.
That's the leading reason.
Yeah.
Can you just break that down for us?
They fell in love. I don't know what you're doing when you fell. For me, that wrongly broken down is the biggest lie from the pit of hell. Because talk to married people, they don't feel like in love every day when they wake up with their husbands or their wives. Most of what people call love is actually lust. Oh, the guy's tall, dark, he has a six-pack, the woman has hips that don't lie, and all those things, da, da, da. But the thing is, love is not what the generation is thinking, the real meaning. The real meaning is, I will love you even with your flaws. I will love you enough to pray for you, for God to help you deal with your flaws. I will love you beyond your weakness, but I will stand with you because I love you until we see the testimony of God over your life. When you lose your job, I will still love you. Many love because your bank account is big. Many love because you're from a big family. Many love because you're a famous person. But the true meaning of love is two people who come together in purpose. When you're operating in purpose, you will love that person. Our fathers stayed together, not because they loved each other every day, not because they felt sparks every day. I've talked to married people, and they say, oh, sometimes I don't even feel like talking to my wife. Some have gone 2 weeks without talking, but they're still together. Purpose brought them together. But the now generation is, love is outward. Not, when the Bible says, men, love your wife as Christ loved the church. Let's look at the church us first. We do things that make the heavens not happy, but they still love. And it says, you know what? I who began a good work is faithful enough to complete it. I who married you, let's go through it. You understand? Yes, this is not good, but we are fighting from the same side. So we need to understand what love is and not lust. Separate love from lust. Right now, what people call love is lust. Love is, I'm taking your good, your bad, and your ugly. But because of that, I will fight with you from the same side, and we get to the finishing line when God says you have done well. And that's why I say, and I'm not embarrassed, and I'll say this again on national TV, is that those of us who have also messed and divorced, we have not helped matters. That's why we can only ask God to forgive us. We have not helped matters. Because they're saying, if he didn't make it, I may have no chances of making it. So it's just by the mercies of God that we are still alive, and we need to stand and say, we made mistakes. I wish we did a few things differently to help the people coming forward. Yeah. So when you love, it's not that feeling. No. Okay. It's deeper than that.
And I think that's a really important point, Robert. And you've mentioned something about those who have divorced have not helped things.
Yes.
And because you have gone through that experience yourself.
Yes.
And I mean, of course, you appeal to the grace of God just to keep helping you.
Yes.
But if you were to say some things that you would do different, what would those things be, given now, having gone through the experience of divorce?
And I'm glad you've asked that, because many people interview me to get sensational stories, but nobody has asked me, what would you have done differently? And that is why sometimes when I go public about the divorce, I get bashed, why are you telling us about marriage and yet you didn't stand on yours? The thing is, I can tell just what you've asked, some of the things you should or should not do for your marriage to stand. Number one, be friends. Number two, don't involve too many people in your marriage. Don't bring too many people. Some of them don't tell you the right advice because they want you to break up. Number three, let God be the foundation. But the most important thing after God is understand whatever differences you have, you are always fighting from the same side. Different opinions, but fighting from the same side. Why am I saying fighting from the same side? Because there's a particular enemy of marriage that you need to fight. And that enemy wants you to fight from opposing sides. He will do divide and rule. But if he sees these a united front, the enemy will be subdued. So some of the things I think I failed myself is maybe I did not take my priestly garment very well. I didn't pray a lot with my ex-wife because we quarreled. Then I don't want to pray with you. But as a priest, you have to look beyond that and say, you know what? I'm guiding this marriage. I allowed my emotions to cloud my responsibility as a priest of the home. You understand? And when that happens, the enemy comes and kills. You understand? So mine happened, and I will never stand or sit anyone and say anything bad about my ex-wife. She's a great woman of God. But it's just that maybe we should have done things a bit differently. And that's why I advise people, fight from the same side. Marriage is an absolutely good institution. But nobody said it's an easy institution.
Okay.
Yeah. And don't enter into marriage looking for the way out. Guess what? You will get it.
Okay.
You will get
it.
Yes.
It's just really coming from your heart.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Robert, we will take a short break.
Yes.
And interestingly, when we come back, we'll be talking about remarriage.
Okay.
You know, and
All right.
viewers, we are talking about marital relationships in our contemporary world, and we have with us Robert Burale, just sharing with us wonderful insights that will be very helpful for the married and also for the aspiring, those aspiring to the institution. Again, this is Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. Stay with us. We'll be right back.